and just kind of seeing if they need anything from me. We've been also putting in doing virtual tours now. We had 2 scheduled yesterday, and it's been really great. The guys from Real Vision have been wearing like gloves and masks, and the sellers feel very comfortable with that. And it's a great way for me to show them that I'm staying in tune with what's happening around us, but also keeping up with their property and getting it out there to the public. And it's a 360 tour that's been able to help people do that initial showing. So my clients have loved that, because then it's almost like a second showing when somebody's actually scheduling a showing, if they're okay with it. So I've just been keeping up with that, and basically each week trying to give them some information about what's happening in the market, and also just making sure they're okay.
Okay, great. How about you, Sharon?
Hello. Yeah, I think Alice and Danielle is exactly doing what we're doing as well. We're doing the weekly touch with the customer. But more importantly, now I spend lots of time every day keeping update of what's out there to help people, especially for the SBA, EIDL, PPP program. I'm on the webinar every day, trying to not only caring for myself, my team, but also getting update information for my client as well. And I found this very helpful, and make sure you get your data ready as well. My weekly data, my monthly data. When you talk to your client, you want to cite those numbers and help them understand what's the market now and give them a positive outlook as well.
Mm-hmm. Yes, great. So are you ladies seeing pushback as to, deals dying, or clients like first-time home buyers or home buyers in general not wanting to pursue purchasing right now? I mean, it's difficult to show, but they're saying that they want to timeline it next year versus this year. Are you seeing that? And how are you guys approaching that when it occurs? We'll start with, let's do Danielle first.
So of course, I'm seeing a little bit of pushback from new buyers, but I'm also trying to kind of keep them engaged with what's going on with how great the interest rates are right now, along with telling them that, this is a time to do a move if you're gonna. There's a lot of opportunity with a lot of great inventory out in the market right now. And also the fact that it's a great opportunity for them to get their mind off of quarantine and focusing on a new place and a new exciting chapter in their life. And it's been motivating to a lot of people hearing that there are still deals happening, like Sharon was mentioning, just the different numbers of what's happening in the local market, letting people know there are things going under contract. There's also stuff closing daily. And the fact of the matter is people get excited when they hear that there's positive energy around them. And I think a big part of that is just telling them, if you stay focused on the goal of getting that new place, after all this is over, you're going to be in your new home and hopefully not even having to quarantine too much in the new home.
How about you, Sharon?
So I want to add on here is definitely we see lots of feedback from our agents that buyer, seller try to push back, but most of them I can see is all emotional instead of rational. So lots of time I provide more information for them to consider. For example, in my marketplace, if we look at the inventory report, look at the sales data for the last 3 months from December to February. March is not out there, supposedly maybe this week. So we can see inventory is actually declining. So it means what? It means we still have things out there for buyer to choose. And if seller at this time to sell, the comp is still strong because they have the past closing data to support their selling price. And also for buyer, there will be not a lot of houses for them to choose from. The seller will be willing to accommodate the price of the negotiation process. So I think speaking of all this thing is more bringing rational data than emotion and feeling about all this news and those COVID-19 to kind of distract your decisions making.
How about you, Alice?
Yeah, I think what we found productive is similar to what the other 2 ladies said, is going through, because every listing is individual as far as not only their price, but the submarket that they're in. So we really communicate to each seller the most recent statistics about their competitive submarket. So what it's looking like, how many showings are other listings getting, right, compared to them. So again, they don't feel like they're out there by themselves. in this kind of different climate environment. We also tell them, like Sharon mentioned, how many other homes have gone under contract in their price point, in their submarket, what's inventory looking like, et cetera. I think what's most important, just to kind of add on, is for a buyer or a seller, I think our job right now as realtors is really to not push them to sell or push them to buy. I think our job right now is to really just communicate with them and have conversations as to what their original motivation was to buy or sell. And does that motivation still ring true today? If it doesn't, then that's okay. Maybe things have changed. But if it does, then bringing them back to that motivation, whether they're a buyer or seller, I think brings clarity to the situation.
Oh, that's so cool and very interesting. And then for inventory, we're only keeping the listings that we have vacant, like active. What is your take on keeping listings active or taking them off the market? So we'll start with Sharon.
For now, as I said, we look at all the data, and as Alice said, we also look at the original intentions to sell or to buy in order for them to make the right decisions. Like I just have a seller that they are urged to, well, not too urged, but then at some point they want to move on with he's self-employed and he owns 2 places, right? So it's a time for them to sell this property, and it also for them to understand or help out the uncertainty of his own business. So we have to understand the original intentions of the seller and the buyer in order to help them to make or consult them to make the correct decisions on the listing, whether they should put it on the market now or wait until 3 months. I also have a seller has little time to wait, that they move from Naperville to Chicago. They decide the time to put out the housing on the market, the house in Naperville on the market. And this kind of client, they can wait because the moving process will take time for them to look up the property in Chicago. So I think we all more, as Alice said, we more have to understand more about the seller buy intentions in order to help them understand the market situations and also help them to make the decision process on the buying and selling side.
Okay, great. To 2 other ladies, do you have anything to add to that in terms of keeping listings inventory on the market?
I think vacant properties, definitely we've been keeping those on the market. I mean, a lot of times the sellers have already found a home, so they're paying the double mortgage. So they want to obviously get the vacant home sold. So that's been great. And then a few people that have wanted to keep their houses on the market, we're just basically making sure that, okay, exactly what are their intentions, and having the sellers and the buyers be sure that obviously we're having the gloves at the showings as well as the masks. So everybody's taking their proper precautions while showing the property.
Mm-hmm. Okay, great. And then, so we talk about our list, and so what I like and what I'm telling my sellers, and I don't know if you guys agree or not, but I welcome if you don't, but what your insight is. But for we are seeing a 60% uptick on people looking on properties online right now. Like everybody is just either on their phone or on their computer. So even like I have a high-rise listing that we can't even show, but I want to still have it active so people can still see it and see the virtual tour. And it gives the opportunity that, we have inventory that's out there that people are seeing, and then there's less inventory because there are listings that are off the market. So do you guys have any disagreements on that? Or do you feel like it's kind of the same boat? Like there's so much online, the people are online so much that it's worthwhile for listings to be active. Cool.
I would say yes. Yeah. And originally, when this all happened several weeks ago, we gave our buyers or our sellers the option. So we outlined everything, how when MRED came out with that emergency meeting, and then they said you can either go on temp or if you stay active, and if you don't allow showings, you won't be penalized as a seller. So at that point, we educated each one of our sellers and gave them the option and outlined and broke down, these are your options. You could keep it on, you could put it on temp, you could keep it on and only allow virtual showings. And then we just let them decide. Again, we educated them and gave them all the information, but at the end of the day, we kind of let them choose and pick what they were most comfortable with.
Cool. Yes. All right. So let's go talk about buyers now. Have you guys, so I think everyone's doing virtual tours, which is great. What, you know, we have a lot of people who are starting their home search online, and they were always doing that from the beginning, but now even more so. Have you found ways to add that value to replace face-to-face interaction with your buyers? I know that like, for example, yesterday, someone just reached out to me. They're only here for 10 days. I really do not want to take them out, but they're going to do their first round of virtual tours, and we're going to do our FaceTiming. And then at the end, after they've seen all that information and stuff, then we're going to physically go out to go see things. How are you guys doing this with your buyers right now? We'll start with Danielle.
Say the same exact way. Sending, for example, yesterday, somebody really wanted to just see one home in Lamont. So I called the listing agent. I said, you know, do you have a virtual tour or a 360 tour I can send to my client? He emailed it to me immediately. They loved what they saw. We're doing our second showing on Friday. And they're being very serious. They pick their favorite home. They're not asking me to look at 10, 12 homes all at once. They're just picking the ones they really like. And I feel like the really serious buyers that have to move are out there right now. And they're going to be respectful of everyone's time because they know this is a time where they're going to want to just look at one or two homes that they've narrowed down already after seeing the virtual tour. So how I'm looking at it as Friday, we're doing a second showing. I'm going to have the contract ready on my computer. And hopefully once they say, yes, let's move forward, we'll do it all through our cars digitally through .loop or DocuSign. And that's what I'm seeing. I mean, everybody's right now is just looking online, and it's great to have the floor plans and virtual tours of those properties because I feel like the buyers are out there on their phones looking at properties every day and just trying to figure out which one they want to go look at.
Yeah, Sharon and Alice, you have anything to add on that?
I think I go first. So I think we're doing the same thing here as a buyer side. People are searching online as a lifestyle. So and this is a very normal process. And some of our agents even offer a live virtual tour. Like when they call us, we set a time. The agent will go to the house and show them. Yeah, and actually do it online over the phone. So if they want to see, oh, can I get closer look on the kitchen tiles? I want to see the actual pattern of the tiles or cabinet, things like that. So we offer something like that in convenience to the buyer side and protect the seller side as well. I mean, some houses has tenant occupy or other occupancy there, but in this way we help protect both sides. But at the same time, at leisure showing, it helps the buyer for their decision making process. But the second showing, as Danielle said, they can do a physical showing or actual another virtual tour. With family members or other people in the decision-making process too. But one thing I want to educate buyers as well, some buyers hesitate to look and to delay closing because they may not have knowledge that attorney, title company, appraiser, everybody is ready for virtual. Everybody is ready for virtual, even title company doing drive-through closing. I just did a closing over at WeCheck. So the attorney and buyer will be, doing explain the paperwork and doing the closing with the title company on WeCheck. But everybody involved in the transactions get ready on the phone, get ready on the internet to answer all the questions that buyer may have. I think this is a very good point to educate buyer to understand now everybody's ready for you virtually.
And that's a good point, because I had a client who actually didn't want to purchase right now because they didn't know if they could find movers. So, I actually reached out to my recommended mover referral and asked them for the precautions that they're taking with their move. And I forwarded it over and they felt really comfortable with that. So you're totally right that, they think that we're still because they know that we're in touch with them, that they know that we're available, but sometimes they don't know that these other outlets that are available, and they are still considered essential services. So that's a really good point, Sharon. Thank you. Did you want to add something, Alice, or?
No.
Okay, cool. All right. So, there was a question that came up at a really good friend of mine, Emma Ng. So I'm going to call you out, Emma, that you should be watching. She had a question that we couldn't get to at the webinar last week. And one of them was that what are you telling your investors now during this time? That they're nervous to purchase something because it's not necessarily essential. Like they're not going to be homeless if they don't buy something, but they just don't know if they should purchase something. So why don't we start with you, Sharon, since you do have a lot of international business?
Well, we have a total different aspect from the investor. The investor feel the hunger right now. They're waiting for the right timing. They're all getting ready. We just have a house bidding around this area. They have to. I mean, in nowadays without any showing for the listing, the house is bid out multiple offer without showing, no showing, just pictures. So I think lots of investors out there are waiting for the good timing. The matter is, how do I educate the investor? This is the good timing, and this is the right timing to send in the offer, and that will be a multiple offer. So I think we have a total different aspect of it, and we have lots of investors ready to buy right now.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Do you have anything to add, Danielle or Alice? No? Good. Great. Okay. So let's move on to work and family life balance. Because yeah, we all have kids. So first off, how is everyone doing this with children? So I'll just do a blanket statement out there. So let's start with Danielle.
Yeah, just trying to set some time in the morning, really early, but actually probably 2 hours. And my husband, it's been great because he also is a realtor, so he'll be downstairs with kids while I will just hone in on as many calls as I can and basically just try to get everything done before lunchtime and nap time. And then once lunchtime and nap time happens, we kind of switch gears and basically making sure I have my calendar booked like I would a normal scheduled day if I was out on all my appointments. But now it's just a lot of it's virtually done. So I'm kind of taking an hour to also check in, after nap time, just on the past clients. Then I'll do our call with lenders, attorneys, just to make sure everybody's on the same page with the process of contracts. So I always have a full calendar, but it just looks a lot different than what it used to look like. But family is obviously, because the child care now is always home, they're always coming first. And it's basically just making sure that the kids are getting their proper schedules. And I become Miss Teacher Danielle for 2 hours too. So
my kids wrote a note that said, "Mommy is the bad guy." So that means that I'm doing a pretty okay job in being a teacher. Because how about you, Alice?
So I have two little ones. One is school age. She's in first grade doing distance e-learning right now. Mm-hmm. So it's been tough, to be honest, because while we are lucky that we do have in-home full-time nanny care, I have to start the day early, set her schedule for her e-learning. And I feel kind of bad for her because it starts at 7 a.m. when she wakes up, and then her day doesn't end until like 5 p.m. Yeah. A lot of assignments, a lot of things that they're constantly throwing at the kiddos. And then the little guy's on a totally different schedule, of course. But like Danielle said, just trying to keep them as close to a normal schedule as possible. That's a challenge in itself. And then on top of that, both my husband and I work. He is in the water business, pumping water pumps. So that's pretty essential. And so he still is going physically to work. And then I'm doing kind of half and half. It just depends on the day. Sometimes I will come into the office. I'm the only one here. Or sometimes I will work from the home office. But yeah, it's definitely a challenge.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally. How about you, Sharon?
I'm more like Alice. My husband has to work physically as well. He is part of the Army Corps team right now as a volunteer to restore all those closed hospitals. So I'm actually with my three kids. I have three kids, and luckily they're all school age, because some sort of independent, but half and half, because the youngest one is 3 and the older one's is 11. But I found this is very interesting that of course I appreciate teacher now more than ever before. Because I have to be teachers, mother and making breakfast and all that. But I found this very interesting thing is by staying at home, I'm surprised that my youngest one has been learning a lot from his siblings. So I think this is kind of the role model things happening in the house. So I would like to take advantage of this time to show my kids how I work, how my day would be. I have to do meetings, I have, phone calls, I have computer works. I think this is a very good chance for the kids to see the mom as their role model, how much work that mom has to do when they're in school. So I think this is it's a challenge time, but it's fun and it's one of the kind experience for all of us.
Yeah, that's a good point. Like I remember when I was a kid, my parents both had to work like a ton, and I think that kind of like resonated like a good work ethic for me, to that I had to continue to work and work really hard to do all these things. So yeah, that's a really good point, Sharon. Like, we feel, I agree with Alice. I feel bad that my kids have to do these things and, they miss their friends, but yeah, it probably is building some work ethic and, grit into them, seeing their parents have to work and do all these things. So, and I personally appreciate that you guys sharing that information and insight. Again, I think a lot of people, we're all by ourselves all day long with our spouses, and we just don't know what other people are doing. So I hope our webinar attendees like appreciate and understand that we're all kind of going through the same thing. So cool. All right, let's talk about how we can compare this time to 2008. So it could be in, we could talk about it in many different ways. I'll start with Danielle in the sense like how we're using our work practice that we had started in 2008 till now. And if Sharon and Danielle, you could talk about how it compares or doesn't compare with kind of that 2008 recession that happened. So I'll start with Danielle.
Because I didn't know how it was, of course, before 2008. So in 2008, I was working as hard as I can just to make as many cold calls as I can. At that time, doing expires and everything. So things are a little bit different now, of course, but I'm still putting in that work ethic that I had to in 2008. Things are not selling as quickly and not as easier. So I'm having a lot more of the conversations with my sellers because showings have obviously, slowed down. So we're basically trying to implement more of the, okay, what can I do for the seller to make sure they know that I'm being involved in the whole process and I'm working still for them full time, even though we're restricted on what we can do. And that's basically just touching base with them. I mean, calls are not once a week for me anymore with the sellers. They're almost every other day at this point, just to check in with them and just to say, hey, this is how many went under contract in Orland Park, for example, as of, last week. So that way they know that people are still out there. I mean, they just want to know that things are happening in the market. So they're comfortable leaving it active so people can be ready to put an offer on their place once we're hopefully all, unquarantined at that point. So it's just a matter of keeping in touch and staying focused. And that's the biggest thing in 2008. Since I didn't know, the market prior to that, I was just staying focused on what I had to do and implementing my own schedule and working as hard as I felt I needed to get, a deal every, week or every other week. And that's what I'm doing today. You're just working a lot harder and doing a lot more of the strategies that you used during the 2008 recession in today. And I feel like it is working. If you can stay focused throughout this time, I think you're just going to come out a lot stronger and a lot more better and ready rather than being at home watching Netflix the whole time, because I feel like those things are not getting your brain motivated. We just got to keep staying focused in this kind of market, and we're going to come out way stronger and do a lot better than we did even the previous years.
Totally. How about you, Alice?
In 2008, that was pretty much about 3 years after I started. So I had just gotten my business kind of up and running, and then the market collapsed. So I remember that distinctly. I remember that I had to make a decision whether or not to crumble, right, with the market, or if I was going to basically figure out strategies and a way to kind of move my business forward. So the way that I took it was a challenge, and to rise to that challenge, and kind of similarly to Danielle, I would pick apart every single transaction. I would look for like the weak spots, and then I would really, really hone in on that. So if I felt like the financing, for example, was a weak spot in a particular transaction, I would literally call the lender every other day. I would make sure that the appraiser had the right comps. I would explain, you know, kind of my expertise and what I knew about the area, especially if the appraiser didn't know. So again, I would look at every facet of every transaction that I had, because I knew that there was never a guarantee that it was actually going to close. So working really hard to just make sure that it was bulletproofed.
Totally. How about you, Sharon?
What I want to add on here is compared to 2008, I hope people use a different perspective to understand the situations. 2008 is all about financial bubbles, right? This whole thing, financial crisis exposed and blow up. But now we have a natural disaster. So assuming if we have a vaccine or under this situation under control, everything bounced back a lot more quicker than 2008. 2008 is kind of I would say, a very deep U-shaped rebounds at this point. But now it's different situations that people are dealing with. We should have this hope, and we should have this outlook and this attitude or mentality to move forward a lot quicker on third quarter and fourth quarter. So I think people should look at this differently. And as Danielle said, we cannot control the market, we cannot control this pandemic, but we can control our actions. We have to come back stronger. If you want to come back stronger, start watching Netflix, right? So we actually do a monthly call within our office. We do a daily call, daily learning and daily call with our agents and brokers to learn and share our stuff together. So to get rid of, you know, this kind of natural mentality that you will be, you know, lazy, you'll be sitting on the couch, you do whatever you want without your schedule. So we try to keep up everybody like that.
Okay, great. Yeah. For me, I don't know if anyone's been following my Insta stories this weekend, but I spent an insane amount of time on cinnamon rolls. So I'm never doing that again. That was a colossal, I mean, they're very good cinnamon rolls. Just took way too much time though. Okay. So I'm sure we've all heard the news about Chase. And then we're starting to see other banks, but the biggest one, I guess, recently was Chase, announced that they are going to increase their credit score and be stricter on financing. How are you guys navigating that with your clients? And we'll start with Alice.
We are basically just taking it case by case and then explaining to clients kind of the new rules that we're going to be playing with. And then if it's a difference of a matter of small number of points in the credit score, then we'll link them up to somebody who can help them kind of improve that credit score in the short amount of time. If there's a really huge gap, then obviously it's probably not realistic that they're going to get financing in the short term. So then we kind of talk to them about other options. You know, that may be renting for during the short, you know, near term future.
Okay, great. And Danielle or Sharon, do you have anything to add to that?
I think what Alice said was perfect. That's exactly what we're doing too. It's, you know, keeping in touch with them, getting them a rental if needed. So when they're ready for, you know, 9 months in, they're ready to start looking for that purchase, their credit score where it needs to be. And hopefully, you know, they're ready to purchase at that time and we can start actually going out to look. So we're doing that same thing to just kind of stay engaged with the customer and keep in touch with them so we don't lose them over time in regards to just, you know, waiting and not doing something proactively.
Okay, great. Sharon, do you have anything to add? No? Okay. So, you know, I know you three are doing the best you can in keeping deals alive. But when the deal does, like, what are you seeing when the deal does die? Is it because the buyer is nervous? Is it like, what are you seeing in that sense? We'll start with Sharon.
Exactly. I have one deal die right before, I think, end of March. So it's I am a seller side. The buyer actually called off on the deal. He's actually purchasing this high-rise condo in Chicago as a second home, and he is feeling very uncertain as an economic and his job. I think he's a self-employed. I'm not sure about his job, but he kind of on an age 50, so he's kind of have that sense of uncertainty coming up. So he called and cancel out the deal. But I think it's, I mean, from the buyer side, I think it's good for him. I mean, from March, I think it's happened about like 30th of March. I still don't feel that urgency on the pandemic right now. But by looking back, he actually made the right decisions. So either seller or buyer, I think we should tell them the whole situations, let them make the right decisions for themselves, because every situation, every person is different.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. That like I'm thinking about the deals that I had die, and it was very situational, like specific to those buyers where the deal had died. Do you ladies have anything to add, Danielle or Alice, on that?
We've actually had several, not to like dwell on the negative, but we've actually probably had 3 seller deals fall apart and 1 or 2 buyer deals in the last, I would say 5-6 weeks. And they were all completely different scenarios.
Yeah.
So one fell apart due to inspection issues. They just couldn't come to terms. Another one was financing. The buyer thought it was related to their credit score. They thought they could pay down something, do a rapid rescore, and then the rapid rescore didn't come back high enough. So there was nothing we could do in that situation. And then on the buying end, it's interesting. It was actually an investor. And so they, again, we try not, we're not in the business to push people, right, to buy or sell, right, force them. So we basically just counseled her, and she was extremely nervous because she lost a ton of money in the stock market, obviously. Yep. Yep.
Down like,
and so then, yes, so then her down payment and she just got very skittish, which we can't blame her. But at the end of the day, similar to what Danielle mentioned, she's our past client. So we're going to preserve that relationship. If she decides to purchase next year or when the market, becomes more stable, then we're going to still have that relationship. Right. So it's been, unfortunate for those situations, but then in the same breath, we've also then put under contract 6 other listings that are totally separate in that same time period. So again, you can't dwell on those things.
Yeah. Anything else to add, Danielle?
I would say the most recent transaction that I had fall through was also an investor who was going to buy several condos in the same building. And it was just basically similar reason due to their stocks. I mean, that was really about it. But we are still keeping in touch. I'm still touching base with them because they're ready to put those back under contract as soon as they feel more comfortable with where their finances are. So I'm still keeping in touch with them, and I totally understood where they were and accepted that. And I feel like they were comfortable with knowing that I wasn't trying to encourage them to move forward with something in this climate right now. So that way they're comfortable to move forward later. So we're still going to purchase something. It just might be a month. It might be 2 months from now. But I told them there's no rush. It's when you guys are ready. I'm ready to help you.
Great. Okay, so I think we have time for 2, maybe 3 more questions. I want to get to one of the questions in our chat. So to Alice, how do you get the stats on competing listings of showings? You had mentioned in the beginning
yes,
of the webinar.
Yes, so it's going to be dependent on the area that you're researching. So depending on what town or city the listing is in, I try to get very specific hyper-local because that's when I find the statistics are the most pertinent. So I try to do same town, same school district, similar year built. You can do that filter on the MLS. Similar square footage. You can also bracket that in the MLS. Similar beds and baths, of course. Let's see what else. And then you have to be careful, like in the suburbs, I know it's more pertinent to the suburbs. I think there are certain suburbs that share similar school districts. So like Naperville, I'll just speak to Naperville. So Naperville, 204, there's parts of Plainfield and Bolingbrook that actually attend Naperville 204. So again, if those are pertinent, you want to add those to the local, hyper-local market. Yeah.
Cool. No, I think I understand what you're saying. If you have any questions, let us know about that. And then we'll ask Danielle this. What are you doing, if anything, different or more to vet buyer mortgage pre-approvals?
what I've been doing since day one hasn't really changed. I always call the lender once I get the contract and pre-approval and talk to the lender, have a conversation. Have they checked income? Have they checked credit? Is this pre-approval up to date? Even if the pre-approval is a month older, I'll ask them for an updated one as of the date of the contract. So that way, when I show my clients, I've already presented them not only the contract, but also a pre-approval that is the date the contract was signed. So that way they already know that I've done my due diligence in regards to talking to the lender and understanding that the lender has done everything they need to do as of today to qualify the buyer. Because as we know, anything can change day by day. So I assure my clients that I'm going to be in touch with this lender, very on every other day if I can, to just make sure nothing's changed financially with the buyer's income. And you just got to do that from day one. That's what I've been doing since the beginning, and just keep doing the same thing, just making sure you talk to that lender. And that lender will tell you typically if they feel like there could be something iffy, because they want their reputation out there as a good lender and a good resource. If you ever need anybody, they're there for you. And I feel like that's important. They want to be able to give you all the information they can.
Great, yeah. Okay, one additional question. From a marketing perspective for an appraisal firm, what is the efficient way to stay connected with our clients during this unprecedented time? So we had talked about, phone calls and just over the top, not over the top, but just more correspondence with our clients. Is there anything you want to add to that, Sharon?
So one thing, I mean, specifically for transactions, now we connect a lot more with appraiser than ever, because usually when appraiser's in process, you don't call appraiser, you just, stay off the contact to make sure this is a fair process. But at this time, I just have a appraisal done for my new constructions projects, which is the highest price in the neighborhood for a townhome at a 400 range. So the appraiser need my help. Okay, they are actually this I think this is from Guarantee Ray, and they order us a desktop appraisal, so they're not able to come out, even though I told them this is a vacant. Yeah, desktop. So even though I told them this is a empty house and vacant, you can actually go in with a laptop. No one is there. I have everything ready for you, globes and everything. They said, nope, this is going to be a desktop one. It will be a desktop one. So I have to connect with them, work with them directly, list out, all the upgrades, every single detail of the house compared to what I closed on in the other neighborhood, as well as I give them a live tour. I have to physically go to the house in person to take the pictures that they want as an appraiser, because they want specific pictures like the mechanical rooms, the street view, things like that. So I work with them as their assistant to get through this process. So I think as an appraiser or as a seller buyer agents, I think keep connect with your appraiser nowadays. Things are different. You can call them, you can email them. Let's connect together and get the things done for them.
Yeah, that's totally right on. Like appraisals there's 2 properties that I had that were having a difficulty in getting it appraised out. So one last question, because I do want to be respectful of your time. When you use virtual tours, are you putting the 360 tours in the MLS or emailing them separately to protect the client's privacy and property information? I always put it on the MLS, but that is a good point. It probably should be a question to the sellers. Do you guys have anything to add to that, to see if it's up to the seller or not on how they would want to put it on the MLS?
I mean,
Go ahead.
Go ahead. Typically, I always put it on the MLS, but I always let my client know that it's going on the MLS. And as long as they are okay with that, I've never had any issues with it. So.
Okay.
Yeah, same thing with us. Most oftentimes, when we do the video or the tour, right, the virtual tour, they know that it's going to be posted. And in fact, they look for it, right? They look for that link on all the sites. Mm-hmm. And then if it's not there, then they ask. So we've never had an issue with them saying, well, why is it posted publicly?
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you so much. I learned a ton. I hope you as attendees did as well. As panelists, I'm sure it was really fantastic to hear your masterminding too. If you guys have any additional questions, panelists, or I'm sorry, attendees, let us know. We can try to get it to the panelists. We have this recorded, so we will send this link out to you all via email. You can find it also on our Facebook too. Peter, do you have anything to add? No, okay, good. All right, well, thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it. Stay tuned for our additional webinars. I think we're going to try to get one more in, hopefully before the shelter in place gets lifted. If the shelter in place does not get lifted, then you'll see a lot of us more. So thank you so much and have a great day. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.